Hi all, welcome to the Coffee Break podcast, where each month we interview a creative in the film and entertainment industry. It could be a producer, director, actor, screenwriter, or all of the above. We'll dive into their journeys and stories behind their work. My name is Kenzie Klem, and I am thrilled to be hosting this podcast. I'm an actress who is passionate about supporting fellow artists in our industry. On this episode, we have all entertainment business founder Jen Hutchins in the studio, who will be talking about her career as a business owner and producer. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. Sorry about all the traffic at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, probably.
I know. I shouldn't say this, but I moved from LA to Austin, and Texas says LA go home, and the traffic is bad. I'm going to blame San Francisco on this one, though.
Yeah. We'll just blame it on
Tech town.
Yeah, exactly. So we're so excited to have you here. We've met briefly a couple of times during different AEB events and WIFT events, but it's so nice to have you in the studio. I'm so excited for you to talk about your journey and I've been really, really inspired by you and getting to talk to you and interview you. So I'm thrilled that other people will also get to learn from your journey. Tell us a little bit about that background and how you got to where you are today.
Oh gosh. I grew up in a small town in Michigan and had family that lived in California, and I dreamed about one day living near the ocean, and majored in broadcast journalism, which taught me how to write stories, use a camera, be a one-man band, and connect with ways of writing that will tell a lot of information really quickly. So that sort of skill set worked well for me when I made it over to Hollywood. The early years, reality TV series was just starting. And at that point, it's what we now call documentary TV series. We were following people in their real life and putting together a story with the interesting things that would work for a television episode. Now, as we know, a lot of reality TV is people pushing people to say and do things they don't want to do. So I have to clearly define that I don't do quote unquote reality. But I was lucky enough to get some good mentors early on. And I think I just instinctually, I don't know if it was growing up in the Midwest, but it was just part of my nature to offer help to people before I asked for things. So when I started finding people that I thought could help me, I said, what do you need? Can I help you? Can I help you do some assistant work or organize some files? In return, I would like to be around someone who's a producer. And then they started mentoring me, which ultimately led to me getting my first opportunities in the business and starting at the bottom as a PA that was getting coffee and supplies and, all the fun things that depict Hollywood.
And then you came to Austin post-Hollywood, correct?
Yeah. So I spent over 15 years in Hollywood. I produced probably over 30 television series, about 10 films, a lot of branded content. And I was working at Dr. Phil, which was a little outside of the track of normal shows I would do. And I started getting the vibe I should go to Austin for some reason. And this was before Austin became the place to go. But my family had relocated from Michigan to Austin, and I was going there all the time for holidays. And the town had just a cool, vibey feel. And I got offered to produce a TV series based out of Austin for 6 months. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'll just try it out, see if I like it. And that was 7 years ago, and I'm still in Austin.
I love it. So when we were chatting, you mentioned how you founded AEB, but before it was AEB, you kind of took it over slightly. It was kind of like part of a group meetup, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So living in Hollywood for many years, you end up going to all these networking events, panels, seminars, and there's so many people that want to be in the entertainment business that there's also a lot of people that are selling snake oil. So you never know who you're getting advice from, if it's really authentic and usable. And the crowd that you're mixing in, sometimes it might not necessarily be helpful if you're one of the outsiders that's not the sibling or the friend or the so-and-so of the industry elites, the celebrities, the presidents of the networks and so on. So it's like, how do you get inside that pearly gate? And I think I'd been thinking about that for a long time. It doesn't only just take hard work and staying, arriving before everybody comes and staying till they're gone. It also takes somebody opening the locked door. And I'd been brewing on this idea for a long time. So when I moved to Austin, it was like, oh, wow, I have to start over fresh, brand new. It's a whole new city, a new, set of playing rules, and I don't know what this game is. And I joined this group where you get invites for various activities happening around town. And I signed up with all the filmmaker gatherings, and I saw sort of a common thread that it was a lot of out-of-towners going to these networking events, and they were sort of singing the tune of there's not a lot of opportunities in town. I might have to move back to LA and New York. And I thought, oh no, this is not what I want to hear. Another locked gate. And I thought to myself, well, there are people working. They're just not here at this event. So, and that started brewing. In the meantime, the I think it's called Meetup, the organizer stepped down and it said, do you want to take over this event? And I thought, they've already got, a few hundred followers. Sure. So I took it over, changed the name, created some branding, wrote a biography about, who I was and that I was willing to share and give away everything, if it helps somebody level up. And about 100 people showed up to the first event. And I got up on stage and was very, very nervous, but started revealing to everybody sort of my journey of, the journey of struggle and a lot of upward hills with boulders being thrown at you sort of stuff. And so I thought, if this advice can help you find a quicker path to success, then, hopefully we don't lose another amazing creative just out of frustration. So thus AEB was born, and it was just simply called Austin Entertainment Business.
Yeah. How do you aim to address all those challenges? Because you said you had so many challenges in Hollywood and you want to be able to help other people. How do you do that through AEB?
I've learned what works and what doesn't work over the years. And your core group of people that you're around ends up being your net worth. And that was an important lesson. It's so tempting to want to create projects with your group of friends. And it's good to just do things, to dive into things. I'm not saying not to do it, but also to pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself by. Are they going to be able to help you level up and open doors for you and create opportunities? And looking back, while those groups were fun, I had done some writers' rooms with friends, and we had done some shoots and some pilots and stuff. Ultimately, all of them, in my experience, ended up imploding. And it was real, because everybody's egos and, nobody knew what they were doing. Everyone was trying to wing it. And so in my experience, just being me and finding the opportunities that I wanted for me personally and finding somebody that was already doing them and just offering them help was a way quicker path to start to get into, a variety of locked gates.
Yeah. And you have guest speakers come in to different events. And how do you choose who those guest speakers are? Do you specifically choose ones that, okay, it's going to be this subject about producing or directing or acting? How do you choose who's going to be your next guest?
Yeah. At first it was based on referrals from locals in Austin. And I asked the question, who are the people that are leading the way, defining the way in town that people should hear from? So, I had movers and shakers that had created their own businesses where they were creating jobs for extras. I had the Austin Film Commissioner, the Texas Film Commissioner, a lot of producers, a lot of production company founders and owners. And then a theme started emerging of how the conversation would go. I found that people really wanted to hear about how to get jobs and how to make money. So the conversations, instead of, your creative process or, how to act or how to direct or how to produce, really started thematically going towards how to get that job, what skills to utilize, how to get money, how to advance a project, what you should be thinking about at the beginning that relates to the end, stuff that will create a sustainable career in this industry. And when you're first starting out, it can be very hard and frustrating. You could lose your house. I mean, this is not a job for the weak.
No, definitely not. And that's also not something that people usually tell you, because there is so much gatekeeping. It's people don't want you to learn how to do it. Which I don't really understand, but I feel like in Austin there isn't as much from my perspective. I don't know what's your opinion on that?
No, there's definitely a sense of, maybe it's because people have had it so hard themselves to get where they are. They feel like everybody should have to go through that. Or here's what I would like to think. Everybody is so different that there is no defined path for your special set of skills. So what somebody else did isn't necessarily going to work for you. And I try to emphasize that when I'm giving advice too, like, hey, these are the things that worked for me and didn't work for me, but take it with a grain of salt, because you really have to define your own path. And I think the other challenge is too, is you really have to define your role in this industry. I think too many people are generic about who they are. Simply saying, I would love to be a writer in Hollywood is not good enough. You really have to ask yourself the questions of, what am I good at? What do I like? Am I naturally funny? Am I naturally scary? Am I naturally dramatic? What are the TV shows that I could see myself working on, or films? Am I more of a feature writer? And then next, you have to ask yourself, do you even have the skills to do this? Have you ever taken a class? Have you ever had a mentor? Have your scripts been vetted by people that have been paid doing what it is you're trying to do? So I think a lot of people fail to realize, like, this is a business. You're stepping in to create a product. Like, imagine you're like, I'm going to create a cereal and I'm going to get it on the shelves of every grocery store. It's like, okay, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You can't just walk in there naively. You've got to find out who all the players are in this game.
Yeah. And then going off of that, so you've helped all these different people, and hearing their stories of how you have helped them. I'm sure there's so many people that come to you being like, hey, I got this out of your event and thank you for showing me this. What has been the most rewarding experience for you, having started AEB and making such a positive effect on the entertainment industry in this community here in Austin?
Well, there's one story that's fresh on my mind right now, because she's going to be the moderator for AEB in about a week. And it's a filmmaker named Suzanne Weinert. She's one of very prestigious producer that we're lucky to have in Austin. She hailed from New York. She got her start working for Julia Roberts and many of the greats, and she produces from Austin. And I thought it was very special for the first time ever, where I'm going to step down from moderating AEB and I'm going to get in the hot seat and she's going to interview me. And the reason that I thought it was so great to have her do it is because I had her as a guest speaker some years back, probably right before the pandemic. She's been a guest speaker a couple times. And while she was speaking, she said, I'm so busy. I have so many projects. I'm not looking for any new projects. And somebody got up on the open mic and pitched a documentary that they were doing, and he was a cinematographer and a documentarian, and she liked what he said so much that she said, see me afterwards. And fast forward, she called me up and she said, well, I know I said I was not looking for any more projects, but I simply just fell in love with this person and I'm going to produce his project. And so to me, that was like the essence of what AEB is about, is putting decision makers in a room with people that need to meet them. Because so many networking events are just people butting heads with like, I need a job. And it's like, well, how are you going to get a job from this? I mean, you should know each other because eventually everyone's going to be working at some point. But like in this immediate situation of right now, like let's put people in the room that can help right now. And so it was really important to have an event that attracts the people that are working that can make decisions and move the needle. So I've just heard thousands of that story now in the 7 years that I've been doing this, about people getting optioned and cast and getting deals and getting financing. Some people tell me they get every single job from attending AEB. So it's amazing. That's why it's stayed going for this long. It's like, how could you possibly shut something down that is actually working for people in an industry that is so hard, some might say impossible at times?
Yeah, and it's constantly changing too. It's not the same today as it will be tomorrow or in the future. And then speaking of the future, what do you see for AEB in the future? Are there future changes or things that you want to add on or do to continue to help creatives?
Yeah. So AEB grew so fast, and it was really essentially one person doing this, me. And I'm a working producer. I produced 42 projects last year, and while doing 12 AEB events, and some of them were pretty big. I mean, we were at Dallas Cowboys Stadium, we were at Sundance, we were at South by. I think I had something like over 50 guest speakers last year alone for AEB. So the future of AEB is adding on a big team of movers and shakers that can grow this how it needs to grow, and they can discover more people themselves and create jobs within AEB. Like, we're working on raising money so that we can offer full-time jobs for people within AEB. So there'll be a nice synchronicity of just having something you can rely on while you're still trying to produce your projects.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are you going to try and host more events with more guest speakers or different types of events in the future as well?
Yeah, so coming down the pipeline, there'll be something every single month, whether it's a VIP happy hour, which VIPs are people that become members. They say, I'm dedicated to this. Studies show that when you put just a little bit of money in something, it makes you dedicated. So that's what we call our VIPs. So we have a special VIP mixer a few times a year for them. And then we'll have the event with guest speakers. We always broadcast live to Zoom. So if you can't attend, you could be anywhere in the world, you can still connect. We've got networking on Zoom and in person. So there's people that only show up to Zoom that have made serious relationships, like someone in LA and someone in New York that just constantly meet on Zoom. And that's the other thing that gives me the chills, like right now, as I said this, is having that consistency. There was a good solid 10 years where I lived in hotels. I was traveling across the US, and I didn't really have that many great friends I could depend on because I was always gone. It was just more of oh, Jen's back, let's go have a drink. But there wasn't really deep relationships. And having this consistency where people can see each other and catch up every month, if not more, is really creating some lifelong relationships with people, which is amazing. I mean, in addition to that, we also do a mastermind every month where the people in the mastermind are starting to form projects together and just really getting to know each other and help each other, which is amazing as well. Because in this industry where, it is so competitive, we need each other and we need help. And I like to mix people with different backgrounds because we don't need all writers in the room. We need a producer, we need a writer, we need an actor. It's great for, a nice circle to know each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of versatility. And you had mentioned too that you'll be on set as a producer, but you also do all these other things. For developing as a creative, why do you think it is so important to be versatile?
I wouldn't be able to produce a project if I didn't know a little bit about every job, if not more. Like I've worn a lot of hats. My start was a production assistant, a post coordinator, a associate producer, segment producer, field producer, senior producer, supervising producer, showrunner, and I think I've worn the hat. I've worn the hat of casting director, location manager, first AD, second AD. The list goes on. So knowing and understanding those jobs is half the battle. Even if you're not going to choose to be a producer, even if you're a cinematographer, an actor, or locations or whatnot, it helps to know how the other jobs are functioning. But then also knowing people in all these categories, it's like if you're doing acting right now, but tomorrow you want to go produce a short film and star in it, if you know people that are in locations, you can just pick up the phone and they can maybe help you out with like a really cool mansion for free, or you know, it's your bag of tricks. You know, how many tricks can you put in that bag to help enhance anything that you do? You know, I have such a Rolodex. Like if I write something, I know which writing person to call. Like, can you read this? Or, you know, I have that locations guy. Or if I'm having a schedule logistics problem, I have the first AD friends, you know, and we all help each other. We all text each other for referrals and advice all the time, all day long.
Yeah. And that goes into what I was going to talk about next is networking and connections and just the more people you know. And honestly, the way you present yourself as well, because Austin kind of is really such a small, intimate place and everyone knows everyone. And we chatted about when we were on Zoom the other day, the importance of kindness and kind of just showing up and saying yes, and how people remember you by the way you make them feel. Can you talk about that and the importance on set of respect and I guess working together? This is just a run-on sentence, but I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, the importance of respect is so important on set. I think like we are all in this to create something amazing, tell a story that moves people. And people would die to be a part of this, you know, as they're sitting in their cubicle or their day job. This should be fun. So when it's so magical by the time a project makes it to set, like being on set, that's the fun part. So everybody should really just lean into like the gift they've been handed. They've been picked specifically for that job, and they all are there because they specialize in this. And when it functions that way, it is so magical and it's so fun. Projects start to fall apart when people start to cross lanes, or they get out of their lane, or they don't know what their lane is, or they're insecure, or they haven't done the research or the due diligence, and they don't know how to walk confidently in that job they've been given. We see it a lot of time with directors. There's a lot of first-time directors given chances and opportunities. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it does open the door for a nervous Nelly who might appear to be mean and cruel and yelling at people. And it's really a sign of insecurity. They don't know how to control their set. And so they're frustrated because it's not working out for them because they haven't, you know, set it up properly for themselves. You know, some of us veterans will laugh with each other internally that, you know, when we show up to set, it's just like this fun dance of smiling because we've been doing it for so long. We've worked out all the problems that, you know, we've predicted problems that like down to aliens landing. So, you know, so by the time we get to set, we're like, okay. And then if like a problem shows up, it's like, no problem, 3 solutions, here we go. You know, it's like, we're just so prepared mentally for it. But, you know, it's a little bit harder when you're just diving in at first, because it's a lot of things happening all at once. You know, it's like you just entered a war zone with a lot of explosions, but instead of people dying, they're just, you know, smiling and, you know.
Yeah. What's the most fulfilling part about being a producer?
The ever-changing sphere of the world of producing. You know, one day I might be producing a horror film and I'm becoming an expert about special effects, makeup, and blood. The next day I'm producing a comedy and I'm directing Adam Carolla. Or I'm driving a supercar worth $600,000 because they dropped it off at my office and I need to get it to the racetrack so we can film it, you know, and surely a producer must do that job. You know, you never know what's going to fall in your lap. You know, I'm pretending to kill Chris Angel when he catches a bullet in his hand in front of Anthony Michael Hall, who shot the bullet. And then me and Anthony become friends. He's like, what just happened? You know, there's always just something weird and cool happening at the same time. Somebody just starts singing out of somewhere. Somebody writes something great. Somebody shoots something great. Or, you know, you're sitting in the edit bay or bouncing around to 6 edit bays simultaneously, putting pieces of the story together. And when you sit there and you pound your head against the wall for 6 hours trying to figure out why one part doesn't connect to the other, and all of a sudden everybody realizes it at the same time, and you're like, done. We just got it. The film is done.
Do you have one memory that you're like, this was the best because you worked with a group of people that you're really great friends with, or there was just a moment on set that was fantastic, or something that was super rewarding that happened?
I had a really wonderful experience working with Elizabeth Avian. She's a well-known producer in Austin and beyond. She's produced the entire Spy Kids franchise, discovered Salma Hayek, friends with Quentin Tarantino, works with him a lot. Partner Robert Rodriguez, they own Troublemaker Studios together. And I had the privilege and opportunity to get called in to produce a recent movie that she's done called Switch Up. It just premiered at South by Southwest 2024, starring Christian de la Fuente, directed by Tara Pernia. And Elizabeth is, I mean, she's so iconic, right? And I'm usually one of those people that shows up to set first, and because I like to get my bearings before everybody arrives, and then I'm usually the last to leave. And so I showed up to the studio, you know, call time was 6 a.m. I think it was 5 a.m. when I got there, and she was already there, and she was unloading craft services snacks, loading them into the break room for everybody. And she'd brought a couple helpers with her that were loading, and she's brewing coffee. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Well, I just wanted, I wasn't sure if we had enough snacks. I wanted to make sure I brought extra and just get my bearings. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this is exactly, like these are the people that I look up to because they care so much about how that day is going to go, but they care about the people too. And if you meet and work with her, she remembers things that you've told her. She remembers everything. She's got eyes all around her head, and she sees when somebody's doing something, and she runs her set like family. And she notices if somebody's hungry. She notices if they need to eat, you know, just all the human things on top of making sure, you know, that a good film and a good set is happening as well.
Yeah, she was so genuine. I met her because she was a speaker at the holiday party. Mm-hmm. And she was just such a genuinely lovely woman. It was really, really nice to get to meet her. Do you have any advice that you would give to creatives? And I know we chatted about, which is one of the reasons I love that you mentioned this, that everyone's journey is different. One path for one person might not be the right path for the other person. But overall, in general, do you have advice that you would give to creatives who might be starting off in the industry, or maybe they feel stuck or anything along those lines?
Yeah, make decisions. You know, take a couple sheets of paper, write on one all the things you would love to do, on another all the things you don't want to do, and then just keep breaking it down. Like, what shows do I like that relate to this? What films do I like that relate to this? What video games? You know, whatever it might be, and then take away the money part, take away the stress part, and just start circling the things that look fun. And then maybe deduce it down to, you know, 2-3 things. These don't need to be your final decision, but go, okay, I picked these 2-3 things. Now I'm going to find somebody who's having fun doing those things, someone I want to be. And if you don't know who that person is, ask around. Start going to networking events, because now you're going to actually do good networking because you've got a specific thing to ask at the networking event. Hi, I've decided I want to be a cinematographer for horror films. Who has fun doing this? Who's successful in town that I could meet? And then people will have answers and referrals for you. It's you should think this way anytime you go to a networking event. Have a very specific ask that's easy for someone just to refer. You know, like the ask should not be, can you get me a job? It should be, you know, I don't really know what I want to do yet. Maybe it's I want to be on set and, you know, just kind of feel the vibe. Okay, so you want to be a production assistant. So maybe, you know, you just graduated college and you go to a networking event and you say, I just graduated college. I think I want to do directing, but I really need to just get the vibe of set. I would like to be a production assistant. Do you know any other production assistants that could give me advice that I could maybe meet, have a coffee with? Don't even ask for a job. Just because guess what? When you graduate college, you actually have no experience working on set. Your competition is other production assistants that have worked on Fear of the Walking Dead and Elizabeth Avian. And it's like, oh, or a recent college grad that's going to have an ego and really thinks he's a director.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't got his ass kicked properly.
Yeah. Everyone needs that. Do you think you're going to stay in Austin or go back to Hollywood?
I plan to stay in Austin. I just went back to Hollywood. I have a film that just got in a film festival, and so I went to do the mixer and the orientation for that, and stayed in Hollywood. And I hadn't really roamed around Hollywood in a while, and I was starting to run into the ghosts of Jennifer's past. And it was quite interesting because the feelings associated with those old forms of myself came back as well. And it feels very big there, and it feels like you can lose yourself there, and you can see the locked doors. And I started to think how much more my life got enhanced by moving to Austin. I found myself having more of a life outside of the entertainment business too. People don't just always say, what do you do? They say, what are your hobbies? Where do you go boating? And it's having that diversity of life that has made me a better creative and a better person. And it's excelled the level of projects that I've been working on comparatively when I lived in LA. And I was so desperate to make rent that I would just take anything that came my way sometimes, and end up on shows that weren't even really in my lane, that were quite miserable. I might have mentioned one in the beginning.
Well, I'm glad you ended up here in Austin. Thank you so much for everything you do with AEB as well, because I can personally say that I have met so many fantastic people through your networking events, and I have gotten jobs through those events. So thank you so much for doing that for all the creatives and for being against all the gatekeeping, because it helps us out more than you could ever know. And I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Oh my God, that warms my heart. See, now I'm going to do AEB for another 7 years just because you said that.
Please, I'm a member. I'm a proud member of AEB. Everyone should be. So thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. And to our listeners, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and follow on Spotify and iTunes so you don't miss out on any future episodes.